Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we've got an upper intermediate level lesson for you all about money.
That's right. We are going to talk about the stock market. So a very interesting topic, very current as well, because, well, throughout the world, stock markets are not doing very well.
That's right. And you may have seen on the television a lot of information about this. So today we're going to hopefully explain some of the things and phrases and words that you've been hearing. But first, we've got a couple of important indicators, a couple of acronyms, actually, that you're going to hear about. So let's look at those in today's vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
All right, so the first word that we have on vocabulary preview is the NASDAQ. NASDAQ.
N-A-S-D-A-Q. So this is basically the American stock market.
Right. It's an acronym. Now, it's a really, really long acronym, so we're not going to get into it, but it is basically the American stock market where all these companies are trading stock. Publicly traded companies.
Right. So publicly traded companies, you're basically trading their stocks through NASDAQ.
Right. And now the next one that we have is an indicator which tells us how well some companies or some stock are doing, and that's the Dow Jones indicator.
Dow Jones indicator. So maybe if the Dow Jones is really low for something, we think, man, it's not doing so well.
Right.
If it goes up, things are improving.
Right. So usually the Dow Jones it's based upon the 50 biggest companies in the United States, the 50 biggest publicly traded companies. Now, you can divide it into like industrial companies or pharmaceutical companies, etc., but in general, that's the indicator and how it works.
Great. So let's take a listen to today's dialogue and find out how these words are used in context. And we'll be back in a moment to talk about what's going on.
Sorry to bother you, sir, but I have some bad news.
What is it?
Well, the stock market just took a huge plunge, and we've lost a lot of money.
What do you mean? What happened?
There are many factors that weigh in, but NASDAQ is down 200 points. The Dow Jones indicator also suffered. Our portfolio is worth half of what it was worth 1 week ago.
How is this possible? You are supposed to be talking to our stockbrokers and making sure that our securities and investments are safe and making a profitable return.
I know, sir. We didn't expect a bull market to become a bear market all of a sudden. On the other hand, you still have some high-yield trash bonds and government bonds that will give us enough liquidity to cut our losses and reinvest in emerging markets. We could potentially make this tragedy work for us and make us think outside the box.
Do what you have to do. One other thing, don't tell the rest of the stockholders about this. If they find out, it's the end of this company.
All right, we're back. So a lot of interesting words there. I think a lot of them were very specific to the stock market and very, maybe a little bit difficult. So why don't we take a look at a couple of those and language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
Okay, so this first word is a very important word in banking and finance. We talk about portfolios a lot. So portfolio.
Right. So basically a portfolio is the variety of things that you own. For example, in the stock market, it could be stocks, it could be bonds, it can be mutual funds, etc. Or, for example, if you're a company, your product portfolio could be all the products that your company owns.
That's right. So in this case, our portfolio is worth half what it was a week ago. And so this is a sentence that means, we've lost half of the money we invested.
Right.
All of our investments are in a portfolio. We talk about them as a portfolio. And when we lose money, we mean we say our portfolio is worth less now than it was before.
Exactly. And well, moving on, he starts to talk about the bull market and the bear market. So what is this all about?
Well, a bull is an animal with horns.
Right.
And a bear is another animal. So we're not talking about animals here.
Right.
We're talking about special finance phrases.
Right. So the bull market would be again, talking about companies and trading. It would be maybe a market that's growing very rapidly, that's very, very strong. That's a bull market.
So people often talk about China's bull market, right?
Right.
How China continues to grow and grow and grow and grow. But a market that slows down, like the United States last year, would be a bear market.
Right. So think of a bear. Maybe it's sleeping. It goes it's into hibernation. That's a bear market. So a slow market. It's not really growing.
Very good. But talking about a portfolio again, we might have stocks, but in this case, the two people are talking about their bonds.
Right.
So he says you still have some high-yield trash bonds and government bonds. What's a high-yield bond and what's a trash bond?
Okay, so when we think about the word yield is how much it gives, right? So how much we are getting from it. So something that is high yield means that you're getting a lot from it.
For example, this orange tree yields 300 oranges per year.
Okay,
That's
so
how much we get from it.
exactly. So we're getting 300 oranges. That's how much it's yielding. And so so basically that's what yield means. So when we talk about trash bonds, this on the other hand, it's a word that's maybe a little bit tricky, but a bond is a promise that you get from the seller that he's going to pay you back the money that you give him with interest, right? But a trash bond is a very risky bond. It means that the seller might not pay you back because, you know, he's still trying to get all the money.
All right, but a high-yield trash bond means that you might make a lot of money from this bond, unless, of course, it's not very dependable.
Exactly. So,
It's risky.
of course, since it's riskier, it has more yield.
Great. So high-yield trash bond. And then what about this? They will give us liquidity to cut our losses. Liquidity. We hear all about liquidity in finance.
Exactly. Maybe in your company, the accountant will talk about this. And that's basically just to have money, cash in hand. So you have money to pay things or to buy things, right? Not
Okay,
with
so it's available.
available, yeah. Not with credit. The opposite of credit.
Okay, liquidity. And finally, instead, what are we going to do? Let's think outside the box. We could reinvest in emerging markets.
And this is a very hot topic lately, talking about emerging markets. So to emerge means to come up, right? To rise.
Yeah, to come out. So it's almost like new or growing markets. So in this case, a market, an emerging market would be, for example, the Southeast Asian market, which is growing quickly, or even you could say West African market. We're talking about places in the world that aren't established. They're not old and dependable. They're new and exciting.
Right. So they're coming up. So that's an emerging market. So a lot of very interesting words and phrases. They're very related to our topic. And so why don't we move on now? Let's take a look at two key phrases on Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
This first phrase is something we've heard a lot about in the last year or two with things not going so well in the world of finance. The first one, here we go, to cut our losses.
Okay, so let's cut our losses. So when you talk about cutting your losses, that means to try and stop losing money somehow. Maybe sell early.
That's right. So in this case, we're losing money. Let's stop now. Let's stop
Right.
everything. Cut our losses. That means cut them away, forget about them, throw them away, and start again. Okay, so we could say, my business is failing. I'm going to cut my losses, sell the business, and start again.
Right. That's exactly it. So to cut your losses means to stop doing something, maybe sell it, and stop losing money.
Basically, you accept the fact that you lost it. You can't get it back, and you start
Right.
again.
So when they were talking about investing in emerging markets, he said, well, maybe we could do this, and that would force us to think outside the box.
Okay, this is a great phrase, and you might hear this in meetings a lot or from your manager. What's going on here is these two people are talking about how they lost a lot of money. The economy is bad, and they've been doing things in a normal way for a long time. It's not working. Let's think outside the box. That means let's be creative. Let's try and discover new ways of doing things that will yield positive results.
That's right. This is a very, very common phrase, very widely used in business or when you're talking about ideas is people tell you to think outside the box, to maybe break some of the rules, right?
Right. Don't just think the way that you always do. Don't do the same thing over and over. Do something new, be creative, come up with something great. So that's thinking outside the box.
Right. Very good. So a lot of great phrases there. I think we've learned quite a bit. Why don't we listen to the dialogue one last time, and we'll be back to talk a little bit more about this very interesting topic.
Sorry to bother you, sir, but I have some bad news.
What is it?
Well, the stock market just took a huge plunge and we've lost a lot of money.
What do you mean? What happened?
There are many factors that weigh in, but Nasdaq is down 200 points. The Dow Jones indicator also suffered. Our portfolio is worth half of what it was worth 1 week ago.
How is this possible? You are supposed to be talking to our stockbrokers and making sure that our securities and investments are safe and making a profitable return.
I know, sir. We didn't expect a bull market to become a bear market all of a sudden. On the other hand, you still have some high-yield trash bonds and government bonds that will give us enough liquidity to cut our losses and reinvest in emerging markets. We could potentially make this tragedy work for us and make us think outside the box.
Do what you have to do. One other thing, don't tell the rest of the stockholders about this. If they find out, it's the end of this company.
So I remember being a little kid and watching TV with my parents, and on the news there was always the business segment, and in this you'd always hear the Nasdaq is down 10 points. The Dow Jones Industrial today is down 10 points. Yesterday was up 2. That's an average of 8. Okay.
Yeah, it's very complicated, especially if you take a look also in the newspaper. Sometimes it shows you different publicly traded companies, and it has a bunch of numbers. It's a very interesting topic. It's almost a science, I think.
Very much a science, and some people have made a lot of money playing the stock market and trying to buy stocks when they're low, wait until they're high, sell them off, and make tons.
Yeah, it's pretty much analyzing risk, so making calculated decisions. And that's why they use all these formulas and all these different ratios and ways to ponder how much they should invest or what would they gain. And so it's very, very interesting. Many people compare it to gambling, but it's kind of like gambling, but not really, because you don't really depend on luck. You kind of make calculated decisions.
And sometimes you're trading for big companies, or even parts of big markets, like parts of entire countries' businesses. Yeah, so
a lot of people, for example, stockbrokers will invest a group of workers' retirement funds. They will take those funds and be like, hey, you're maybe getting 5% from the bank for keeping your money there. Give me the money and I'll give you 25% yield on your investment. So so obviously they're playing not only their reputation, but also with other people's life savings.
And that's why a lot of people lost money when 2 years ago the bubble really burst in a lot of areas like real estate. Stock prices went down. The United States went into a recession, and all these people's retirement funds, their savings, they lost it. Yeah. And so you got to be careful with this kind of stuff and do your homework. But that's about it for us today. Hope that you've enjoyed this lesson. If you have questions or comments, please do visit us on our website, englishpod.com.
All right, we'll see everyone there.
Bye.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. A steep and rapid fall. Plunge. To contribute, especially in a discussion. Weigh in. Affording gain, benefit or profit. Profitable. The amount of something that is produced. Yield. Take another look at something. Think outside the box. Let's try that faster. To contribute, especially in a discussion. Weigh in. Affording gain, benefit or profit. Profitable. Take another look at something. Think outside the box. The amount of something that is produced. Yield. A steep and rapid fall. Plunge. Now say the word and hear it in a sentence. Plunge. The prices of houses in the U.S. took a huge plunge this month. Plunge. The car went off the road and plunged into the abyss. Plunge. The value of our stock has taken a major plunge. Weigh in. Carol usually weighs in with good ideas at our meetings. Weigh in. Many factors weighed into our decision to fire you. Weigh in. If you weigh in all the pros and cons of buying a new TV, you would see that we don't really need it. Profitable. Their business is very profitable. Profitable. I think we can be profitable if we reduce our operational costs. Profitable. Real estate is one of the most profitable businesses in the world. Yield. The stock you currently own yields about 10% per annum. Yield. I am very unhappy with the yield of these securities. Yield. The yield on your securities could be greatly affected with inflation. Think outside the box. When you have to solve a problem, it's good to think outside the box. Think outside the box. Some of the great inventions of our time were invented because inventors decided to think outside the box. Think outside the box. Thinking outside the box can offer a different and novel perspective on things and life. Hello everyone and welcome to another great lesson here at English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we've got an upper intermediate level lesson for you all.
That's right. We're going to talk a little bit about business, and specifically we are in a business meeting where we're trying to sell something to someone.
That's right. So you're going to hear a lot of talk about chocolate, or in this case, gourmet bonbons.
Gourmet bonbons.
Bonbons is another word for chocolate candies or candies.
Okay, so a bonbon is kind of like round usually, right?
Usually, yes.
Okay.
All right, so let's get started and listen to today's dialogue. We'll be back in a moment.
I'm glad you could find time to meet with me, Mr. Johnson. I can't think of a nicer environment for our meeting today. The ambience here is lovely.
No problem. If possible, I always combine business with pleasure. Now let's hear more about these chocolates you're offering.
Well, as you know, I have recently become the sole distributor for Granger's Gourmet bonbons here in the United States. They're a new manufacturer and are looking to break into the luxury market. Naturally, your restaurant sprang into my mind immediately. I think your brand exemplifies many of the same traits as Granger's, and serving these chocolates would really add to your reputation for providing elegant, luxurious, first-class dining.
Sounds interesting. Gourmet chocolates. Where are they produced? Belgium?
Actually, the factory is located in Scotland.
Really? I didn't think they were known for their luxury chocolate production.
That's what makes this such a fantastic opportunity. The government is 100% supportive of creating new export markets and has guaranteed a low tariff for all wholesale orders of over 1,000 units. They've also reduced the red tape involved at customs as well. Here, I brought these especially for you. Try one.
Oh, thanks. Creamy texture. Very smooth.
Unique, aren't they? I bet you've never tasted anything like it. Quality is assured as I personally visit the factory to make sure no one's cutting corners with the ingredients. Only the crème de la crème make it through inspection.
Yes, very interesting flavors. Slightly spicy. Very unique, that's for sure. Exactly what are the ingredients?
I have it on highest authority that this traditional secret recipe has been handed down in the Granger family for generations. I'm sure you can keep a secret. Buttermilk, cacao beans, sugar, and haggis.
Haggis. What's haggis?
It's a traditional Scottish delicacy. You take sheep's liver, heart, and lung and stuff it inside the sheep's stomach.
I'll get back to you.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Johnson! All right, we're back. So a lot of interesting vocab there. The guy was trying to convince him about these chocolates, but it turned out to be something a little bit strange, and we'll talk about that in a little while. Before we get into that, why don't we take a look at 7 key words that we have prepared for you today on Language Takeaway.
Language takeaway.
Okay, so we've divided language takeaway into 2 parts today. The first part is all about business and manufacturing. So what's our first word, Marco?
All right, so the guy talked about being the sole distributor for this company called Granger's Gourmet Bonbons.
Okay, a distributor. Okay, this is a person or a company, and a distributor is someone who distributes or sells a product, right?
Right, so the factory will make them. He will get all these goods from the factory, and then he will be the one that gives it to the different retail stores. So he can have many clients, and he is the main person who you get it from. So obviously they don't get it directly from the factory.
Okay, so this person, a distributor or a company, is in the middle of the transaction. On one side, there is the manufacturer, and on the other side, there is the retail market or stores.
Exactly. And as you said, that's our second key word today, manufacturer.
Okay, manufacturer, again, is a person or company that makes a good. So, for example, a television manufacturer makes TVs. It's like a factory.
Exactly. So they manufacture things, they make them.
All right. So we've got distributors who are moving goods. We have manufacturers who are making them. But what happens when we want to move a good out of a country?
Okay, so that is our third word for today. Usually in customs, we have to pay a tariff for these goods, or a tax.
Okay, so a tariff is a special kind of tax that you pay when you are trying to export or send outside of your country goods that you've made in that country. So, for example, if I make 100 TVs in America, but I want to sell these TVs to someone in Mexico, I have to pay a tariff. I have to pay like $10 to the government.
That's right.
That allows me to send these out of the country.
That's right. So that is a tariff. And now when he was talking about tariffs and how the government is reducing the tariffs in order to motivate business, he talked about also that the government is reducing or cutting the red tape.
Okay, so he says, listen, they've also reduced the red tape involved at customs. So this means that before they were encountering some problems at customs, because customs, you know, there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of taxes, there's a lot of information you have to provide. It's a hassle. It's a lot of work.
A lot of paperwork.
Right. So this kind of paperwork, bureaucracy, this is called red tape in English. For example, I would love to get a visa for my foreign husband, but there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of work that we have to do.
There's a lot of bureaucratic processes that you have to do.
All right. So red tape, this means a lot of paperwork, a lot of work that you have to do.
Okay. So those are our keywords that are related to business. Now let's move on to a couple of different adjectives. The first one, when he talked about chocolates, he said elegant. He said that something is elegant.
Okay, elegant. This is a great adjective. You're going to see this on a lot of luxury brand items. Elegance means something is elegant if it is classy, if it looks really good and rich, or you could say that dress is very elegant, that mink coat is very elegant.
Okay.
This is a positive thing.
So something that looks kind of expensive at times as well.
Yeah, that's right. Another word that means looking expensive or elegant is luxurious.
Okay, so luxurious comes from the noun luxury.
That's right. Luxury, luxurious. So we can say that the executive suites at this hotel are very luxurious. They have a jacuzzi, a king-size bed, expensive silk sheets. All right, the best quality materials.
So you can say that elegant and luxurious kind of go hand in hand.
That's right. Although elegant you usually say about someone or their clothing, or even a car, but luxurious is more like a place or an object.
Okay. Good. And then we have one final word that also describes something that is very rare or very good and rich, a delicacy.
Yeah, actually, this one is a noun. It's a thing. So we can say that this is a Scottish delicacy, or what are the delicacies in your country? So delicacy is something that's special.
Okay.
So, for example, you've told me that in Ecuador there are some interesting food delicacies.
Delicacies?
Little animals.
Yeah, for example, guinea pigs. Well, they're not really a delicacy, although kind of, because guinea pigs are expensive comparatively to chickens, for example. So it is considered to be something that you only eat on special occasions.
Right. And in East Asia, many people consider shark's fin soup to be a delicacy.
Right.
It's a special dish.
So we can say that it's usually about food, and it's rare, something that's rare or special, or also can be very expensive.
That's right, a delicacy.
Okay, so a lot of great, interesting words on language takeaway. Why don't we move on now to Fluency Builder?
Fluency Builder.
This first phrase is actually something I try to do as often as possible, but it's usually very difficult. I combine business with pleasure.
Right, to combine business with pleasure. Now, this is a whole phrase, and this talks about doing business, but at the same time, doing it in a fun way or an interesting way.
Right. So pleasure here means something that is fun or entertainment even. So, for example, going out to dinner with your company is a way to combine business with pleasure. All right. Or meeting a client at a bar is combining business with pleasure. So you're combining things that are fun and things that are work related.
Right, because you can have a business meeting in a boardroom or in a business or in a meeting room, but if you have the same business meeting at a bar where you're talking and laughing, but also at the same time talking business, then you're combining business with pleasure.
That's right.
And now for our second phrase, it's more about cheating, right? Somebody that is cheating or maybe not doing things correctly, they are cutting corners.
That's right. So cutting corners is another way to say cheating. For example, I've seen students cutting corners with their studies. You think about cutting corners, it means that you're not going the long way. You're cutting, you're cheating by going the shorter way.
You're taking a shortcut.
Taking a shortcut. So, for example, instead of studying for that final test in math, some people write the formulas on their hands.
Right.
This is a way to cut corners. Instead of studying, you actually cheat by putting it on your hand, making it easier.
So to cut corners is to cheat or to try to take the shortcut, but it kind of has a negative connotation, right?
Oh, definitely. So most people will say, don't cut corners. In the end, it's not worth it.
Right. And for our final phrase, we have one that it's in French.
So this one is in French, but it's also a very common English phrase. That's why we're going to teach it to you. The crème de la crème.
Okay. So literally in translated from French, that means the cream of the cream.
Right. But in English, we would say that it's the best of the best.
The best of the
The
best.
very top.
So that's what this phrase means. The best of the best. The very top. The most excellent.
So you could say, Harvard University attracts the creme de la creme of American high school students.
Okay, so the very best of American high school students. All right, so that phrase, it's in French, but you can say it in English, right? Like
should.
fiancé, for example.
Fiancé, creme de la creme. These are all words that we've stolen from
Right.
French and we use in English. So don't worry about how you pronounce it. In English, we just say creme de la creme.
Okay, so why don't we listen to this dialogue for the last time, and we'll be back in just a bit. I'm glad you could find time to meet with me, Mr. Johnson. I can't think of a nicer environment for our meeting today. The ambience here is lovely.
No problem. If possible, I always combine business with pleasure. Now let's hear more about these chocolates you're offering.
Well, as you know, I have recently become the sole distributor for Granger's Gourmet bonbons here in the United States. They're a new manufacturer and are looking to break into the luxury market. Naturally, your restaurant sprang into my mind immediately. I think your brand exemplifies many of the same traits as Granger's, and serving these chocolates would really add to your reputation for providing elegant, luxurious, first-class dining.
Sounds interesting. Gourmet chocolates. Where are they produced? Belgium?
Actually, the factory is located in Scotland.
Really? I didn't think they were known for their luxury chocolate production.
That's what makes this such a fantastic opportunity. The government is 100% supportive of creating new export markets and has guaranteed a low tariff for all wholesale orders of over 1,000 units. They've also reduced the red tape involved at customs as well. Here, I brought these especially for you. Try one.
Oh, thanks. Creamy texture. Very smooth.
Unique, aren't they? I bet you've never tasted anything like it. Quality is assured as I personally visit the factory to make sure no one's cutting corners with the ingredients. Only the creme de la creme make it through inspection.
Yes, very interesting flavors. Slightly spicy. Very unique, that's for sure. Exactly what are the ingredients?
I have it on highest authority that this traditional secret recipe has been handed down in the Granger family for generations. I'm sure you can keep a secret. Buttermilk, cacao beans, sugar, and haggis.
Haggis. What's haggis?
It's a traditional Scottish delicacy. You take sheep's liver, heart, and lung and stuff it inside the sheep's stomach.
I'll get back to you.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Johnson! All right, we're back. So now this Scottish delicacy, what is this haggis?
Haggis.
Haggis.
Okay, haggis, I've never actually eaten it. It does sound pretty disgusting. It's a Scottish delicacy that I think involves stuffing, like what? What do we hear? Pig liver? Let's see this again. So basically, you take a sheep's liver, a heart, and a lung, and you put it inside the sheep's stomach, and you serve that. So it's
And you
kind
cook it. Yeah, you cook it like that.
You cook it, and so it's like all the insides of a sheep.
Yeah. It kind of sounds disgusting, but I'm pretty sure it tastes pretty good. Because it's a
probably
Scottish
tastes
delicacy,
good.
so...
Yeah, I don't know. Although I cannot imagine eating it in a chocolate. This is disgusting.
I've heard of countries where they take chicken, they stuff it with something, like they have a stuffing, and then they put the chicken inside a goat, and then the goat inside a bigger animal, and then they cook all that together.
Oh, wow.
And then you have you have this amazing, obviously it's huge. They use these big brick ovens to cook them. But you have this platter with like 3 different types of meats.
Oh, wow. We have that in America.
Really?
It's called a turducken.
Turducken.
Turkey, ducken, turkey, duck, and chicken. So you have a chicken inside of a duck, which you put inside of a turkey.
Turkey, wow.
And you bake it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How does it taste?
Delicious.
Ah,
It's a very
see?
special taste. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm curious to know what your national delicacy is. Do you have a delicacy in your home country? Let us know on EnglishPod.com. We're always curious to talk about food, but we would love to have you practicing on the website and asking any questions that you may have.
That's right. So we'll see everyone there.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. The atmosphere of a place. Ambience. A person or business that sells to retail stores. Distributor. A company that makes goods. Manufacturer. Enter quickly. Break into. To appear or come into being quickly. Spring. Sets an example, a demonstration. Exemplify. A characteristic feature or quality. Trait. Place where goods are made. Factory. Famous for, easily recognized. No. A tax or amount of money to be paid. Tariff. The sale of goods in large quantities. Wholesale. Procedures required to gain bureaucratic approval. Red tape. To do something in the easiest or most inexpensive way. Cutting corners. To pass from one family member or generation to the other. Hand down. Made of sheep's viscera, minced with oatmeal and sweat. Haggis. To pack tightly, to cram inside. Stuff. Let's try that faster. The sale of goods in large quantities. Wholesale. Made of sheep's viscera, minced with oatmeal and sweat. Haggis. Famous for, easily recognized. No. Place where goods are made. Factory. Sets an example, a demonstration. Exemplify. Enter quickly. Break into. To pass from one family member or generation to the other. Hand down. A person or business that sells to retail stores. Distributor. A tax or amount of money to be paid. Tariff. To pack tightly, to cram inside. Stuff. To appear or come into being quickly. Spring. A company that makes goods. Manufacturer. To do something in the easiest or most inexpensive way. Cutting corners. Procedures required to gain bureaucratic approval. Red tape. A characteristic feature or quality. Trait. The atmosphere of a place. Ambience. Exemplify. 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 Wholesale. 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 Red tape. Red tape. Red tape. Cutting corners. Cutting corners. Cutting corners. Hand down. Hand down. Hand down. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we're talking about buying clothes.
That's right. We're going to go and get some clothes, but on this occasion, we are going to get a suit, and we're going to have it made especially for us. So before we get started, why don't we take a look at one key word that we have in Vocabulary Preview.
Vocabulary preview.
Okay, this word makes me think of things that are very rich and soft.
It's a fabric, right?
That's right. It's a kind of textile. It's called cashmere.
Cashmere.
So maybe you've heard of cashmere wool. It's a special kind of wool that comes from animals.
So this is a textile or a fabric that is commonly used to make pants, nice pants or suits for men.
Or scarves or sweaters. You've ever had a cashmere sweater, you know it's very luxurious, very soft.
So it can be a little bit expensive depending on the quality, and that's what we're going to be looking at now. We're going to be making a suit out of cashmere. So why don't we listen to our dialogue for the first time?
Welcome to Bill's Fabric World. What can I do for you today?
I was wondering if you guys also tailor clothes.
Sure we do. We have the best tailors in the country. What is it that you need exactly?
Well, I'm looking to get a custom-made suit.
Excellent. We have the finest cashmeres at affordable prices. How about we get you measured? Let's start off by measuring the width of your shoulders. Now, let's measure the length of your arms and this bit around your neck here.
Can you make sure you leave a little extra space in the collar? My neck gets easily irritated.
No problem. Now for your pants, let me just measure your waist and the inseam.
You might also want to leave a little extra room in the waist area. I tend to gain a few pounds over the holidays.
Okay. Now you can pick your fabric and pattern design. Please follow me.
So this reminds me of something that people used to do a lot more often. So you go to the tailor and you'd have some clothes made. Most people don't do this anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's actually really interesting. Maybe because it's more expensive nowadays, or tailors are harder to find.
That's right. So let's learn about the words first and what they mean, and then maybe we can talk about this at the end of today's show.
Language takeaway.
All right, so today on Language Takeaway, we have a word that is a noun and a verb. So as you mentioned, the person that makes suits is a tailor.
That's right. You can say, my uncle is a tailor. He makes clothes for famous people. But this word is also a verb. That means it's an action word. We can say, my uncle, the tailor, he tailors clothes.
Okay, so to tailor clothes. And what does it mean when you say to tailor?
Well, it can have two meanings. The first is what we learn about in today's dialogue. It means to make clothes.
Okay.
So to make a shirt or to make a pair of pants. But these days we often say to tailor, which means to fix something. So, for example, Marco, if you buy a pair of pants and they're too long,
Right.
you can have them tailored.
You have them tailored. And that means that I am going to have them fixed so they fit me properly.
Exactly. This is a lot more common right now.
Okay, so we're going to be tailoring clothes. Now, if any of you have ever been to the tailor, what they do is they measure you. And what do they measure? Well, in this case, they get the width of your shoulders.
Well, what's really great about these upcoming words is that they're useful in math as well, math and just basic measurements. So width is how big something is across.
Across, how wide something is.
Exactly, wide, width.
Okay, so that's the width. Now, your shoulders, they are wide. And, well, your legs, on the other hand, your legs and arms, you don't measure the width. Usually you measure the length.
How long they are.
Okay, so width and length. Now, just to throw it in there, this wasn't in the dialogue, but what would be the other measure word?
So the third word would be height. So you think of a rectangle, you have the width, how wide something is, the length, how long it is, and the height, how tall it is.
How tall it is, right. So width, length, and height. All right. Now that we've measured our arms and legs, now we want to measure our waist.
Okay, this is the important one. This is also the sensitive one. If you find out you've gained some weight, we measure the waist. Okay, that's how big you are around your stomach. And so usually we measure this in a circle.
Okay.
Okay, so you've heard of a 26-inch waist or a 32-inch waist. This is the size of your stomach.
Okay. So it's just above your hips, right? As you say, it's your stomach. And, well, we measure the waist. And now, in men especially, they measure the inseam. Now, this is very particular for tailors and having suits made. What is the inseam of your pants?
Well, think of the word inside. This is the inside of your pants. So from your foot to the middle of your pants where your zipper starts.
Okay.
So that's not the outside length, it's the inside length, okay?
Now, for example, skirts, they don't have inseams, right?
No, because there's no inside, there's no middle, right? So it's just like a circle.
Okay.
But in pants or shorts, you have an inseam. That's where it's connected in the middle.
All right. So also in shorts, very interesting. So you can measure the inseam of pants or shorts. All right. So very interesting and particular words for tailors. Why don't we listen to our dialogue again, and we'll be back shortly.
Welcome to Bill's Fabric World. What can I do for you today?
I was wondering if you guys also tailor clothes.
Sure we do. We have the best tailors in the country. What is it that you need exactly?
Well, I'm looking to get a custom-made suit.
Excellent. We have the finest cashmeres at affordable prices. How about we get you measured? Let's start off by measuring the width of your shoulders. Now, let's measure the length of your arms and this bit around your neck here.
Can you make sure you leave a little extra space in the collar? My neck gets easily irritated.
No problem. Now for your pants, let me just measure your waist and the inseam.
You might also want to leave a little extra room in the waist area. I tend to gain a few pounds over the holidays.
Okay. Now you can pick your fabric and pattern design. Please follow me.
All right, we're back. So now we have 3 key phrases that we found in this dialogue. So let's take a look at them now in Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
This first phrase is the topic of today's lesson. Well, we talked a little bit about measurements for a suit, but in particular, we're getting a custom-made suit.
Okay, so this word custom-made.
Well, custom is important. It means special or unique. There's no other like it. So we could talk about custom cars. That means a car that has been fixed especially for you.
Okay, so a custom-made suit would be a suit that was made specifically for your height, for how big your waist is, etc., specifically for you.
Right, so a suit that I buy at the department store is just a normal suit, but a suit that I have made for me is a custom-made suit.
Okay, and as you said, you can use it for cars, a custom-made car, or maybe, for example, a custom-made
kitchen. That means that you get to pick every single part of the kitchen that you want.
Many people do that, right? They have custom-built or custom-made homes.
Yeah, that's always something I've wanted to do, but I hear that it's much more expensive than getting a normal homemade.
All right, so that's the first key phrase. Now, moving on, when we talk about measuring, we say, I measured the length of this street.
Right, or let's measure you so we can see how big you are.
But if you noticed in the dialogue, we use the passive voice. He says, let's get you measured.
Okay, I got measured, or it got measured. To get measured, as you say, is the passive voice. Now, what's the difference between passive and active?
All right, so basically what happens here is we are concentrating on the person and the action falling upon you, for example. So, I got measured. What happened to me? I got measured.
Who did it? Who measured you? We don't know.
We don't know. We don't care, right?
All right, the important part is that you were measured. You got measured. But we could have a different phrase. We say, for example, I will measure this table, or he measures the height of the door. And we know he measures.
Right.
I will measure. We know who the actor is. That means it's active voice because the focus is on who's doing this action. But in passive voice, the important thing is who is receiving the action.
Right. Now, it's a little bit complicated because, as you can see, measured is in the past, but we're not really talking about the past, so it may get a little bit complicated. We can take a more in-depth look at that in the community section. You can ask a couple questions. We'll place a couple of examples, but it's kind of hard to get into the grammar over an audio podcast, right?
That's true. So that's why we have the practice space on the website.
All right. Now, moving on, we have our last phrase. And when he was talking about the waist and how he should leave a little bit of extra room, it's because he tends to gain a few pounds.
Okay, so to gain a few pounds is like gaining a kilo. It means to gain weight over the holidays. And And in this case, to tend to, I tend to, means I normally or I usually. So, for example, Marco, what do you tend to eat for breakfast?
I tend to eat scrambled eggs and a glass of yogurt.
That's healthy.
I
Do you
am.
tend to run late in the morning?
Yes.
True.
Right? So tend to, it's a tendency is what usually happens.
It's normal.
It's normal. All right. So very interesting phrases, very interesting words. Why don't we listen to our dialogue for the last time?
Welcome to Bill's Fabric World. What can I do for you today?
I was wondering if you guys also tailor clothes.
Sure we do. We have the best tailors in the country. What is it that you need exactly?
Well, I'm looking to get a custom-made suit.
Excellent. We have the finest cashmeres at affordable prices. How about we get you measured? Let's start off by measuring the width of your shoulders. Now, let's measure the length of your arms and this bit around your neck here.
Can you make sure you leave a little extra space in the collar? My neck gets easily irritated.
No problem. Now for your pants, let me just measure your waist and the inseam.
You might also want to leave a little extra room in the waist area. I tend to gain a few pounds over the holidays.
Okay. Now you can pick your fabric and pattern design. Please follow me.
All right. So we talked earlier about how most people buy their clothes at a department store or a clothing store. Have you seen much of this? You know, maybe back in Ecuador, it's more common than in America.
Yeah, usually people just go to a department store and get suits, for example, but it's actually very common as well because it's kind of they're artisans to be like a shoemaker or to be a tailor. So actually people like it more and go to tailors because they kind of become renowned. Like, oh, he used to make suits for the president. So, you know, people really, really like to get suits made there. And obviously they fit much better. You feel more comfortable.
And you look better.
Yeah.
As I've said before, you know, I see people who buy all these suits. My brother, for example, they never quite fit right.
Yeah.
You can tell it's a little too big in the shoulders. My brother's tall, so his pants are always a little bit too short. But when you come to a place like China and most people can get these suits made for them, they just look fabulous.
It looks very, very nice. Yeah, so maybe you guys can tell us if you've ever had anything tailor-made. Not only guys' suits, but girls also get tailor-made dresses, tailor-made blouses.
I always get coats made, actually, because
Coats.
my shoulders are broad, and so it's hard for me to find coats that fit right. But if I get one custom made, it looks really good.
Right. So come to our website, englishpod.com, leave your questions and comments there, and we'll see you guys later.
Until next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Made especially for the needs of one person. Custom made. To ascertain the dimensions, quantity. Measure. Be sure. Make sure. Be more likely. Tend. An artistic or decorative design that repeats. Pattern design.
Let's try that faster.
An artistic or decorative design that repeats. Pattern design. Be sure. Make sure. Be more likely. Tend. Made especially for the needs of one person. Custom made. To ascertain the dimensions, quantity. Measure.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Custom made. Brad got a custom-made motorcycle. It looks amazing. Custom-made. I want to get a custom-made sports car. Custom-made. Her dress was custom-made in Italy. Measure. I need to measure the length of this street. Measure. Help me measure the width of this box. Measure. Many people tried to measure the diameter of the earth. Make sure. Make sure you make some extra food just in case. Make sure. Please make sure you leave the door unlocked. Make sure. Can you make sure those reports are done by the end of this week? Tend. Don't buy cheap things. They tend to break easily. Tend. I always tend to forget my keys in my car. Tend. People tend to forget what happened in the past. Pattern design. This flower pattern for my dress looks really nice. Pattern design. I bought wallpaper that has a black and red circle pattern. Pattern design. I want a simple and elegant dress pattern.